Here we are again, week 3, rolling into this special summer content series presented by West Bradenton Baptist Church. My name is Sam. I'm the lead pastor, and today we're talking about controversial stuff. I have with me Brandi and Kent. Brandi serves our children, Kent our students. They serve on staff here at West Bradenton, and I know you guys feel this travel sport phenomenon. You used to do it, you heathen.
I did. Yeah. Yep. For most of my life, actually.
Hockey player. Did you play hockey?
I did not play hockey.
Okay. You've only had one tooth knocked out.
I have, actually.
Okay.
It's the straightest one of my teeth. The one that was knocked out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So this is something I know pastors feel. I know church leaders feel. It's a highly controversial topic, which is exactly why we're discussing it. We're also using these episodes to talk about our covenant. So week 1, we talked about worship. Week 2, we talked about grow. And today we're talking about serving. We've got 7 parts to our covenant. So we're going to cover all 7 portions of our covenant. So worship, grow, and serve. Those are the first 3. More to come on that here in a second. And kind of the theme of this is if you are regularly doing travel sports, you are regularly out of church. Therefore, it is difficult to serve. Now, we're not anti-sport, of course, right? I love sports. My kids do sports. But how do we balance this phenomenon of travel sports with the regular rhythm of church? How big of a problem is it at our church, Ken?
That's a great. Honestly, when I think about that question, I think about my experience growing up, even just beyond our church. For sure, there are students who miss Wednesday nights. There's students who miss Sundays because of youth sports. It happens everywhere. But even thinking about me growing up, like this was a part of my experience. I was missing church at least every other week for youth sports. And I know that the demands that sports place on people today have only increased from when I was a kid. So I think it's a huge problem, honestly. Is it?
Yeah,
with kids?
Definitely Wednesday nights we see it. It's not necessarily travel ball, but just Little League and just regular recreational leagues. We do see a lot of kids that are in practice. It's not sacred anymore. Wednesday nights are not sacred with sports leagues. They don't keep them from practicing anymore. So, definitely seasonally, Wednesday nights are rough. And then you do see some with the travel balls more on a Sunday morning where kids are in tournaments all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and having to miss church.
So, one, we still have a Sunday, Wednesday rhythm. A lot of churches don't have that. And so part of the expectation of our church is a regular rhythm of discipleship and a regular rhythm of worship and a regular rhythm of serving. And the way that we do that is Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights. So we are and I hate to put it this way because program has a bad word. It's kind of a bad word, but we're a program-driven church. But the program is not the point. The point is discipleship. And the way that you're discipled is to be in a regular rhythm of being at church with the church and doing church. But that being said, of course, there are times when you're going to miss. There are times when you have a game. There are times, hey, it's the tournament. It's this weekend trip we've got to do. Those to me are understandable and reasonable. I think where we get the problem is when it becomes out of balance and it's more travel sport and less church. So I certainly don't have a problem with people playing sports, and I certainly don't have a problem with people missing from time to time. We try not to in my family, but I kind of work here, so it's a bigger deal. But how do we maintain that balance, Brandi? You don't have to name names. You can if you want. It might get awkward, but think of a family as an example in our church. You don't have to name their name, but like they do sports, but they balance it well, and kind of tell that story. What does that look like in our church where you feel like this family has their priorities in order?
Yeah, so I think it's all about, like you said, balance. Just making sure, like we've had families who they do have Sunday afternoon games, but they come to the 8 o'clock service with their kids. So they do not miss church altogether. Then they go do their games. Sometimes that's not possible, but they try. And I think it's all about what you're communicating to your kids, that church is not something that we're fitting into our schedules, that we're fitting our schedules around church as much as we possibly can, that it's not an afterthought, that it is a very important part of what we're doing, every week, and that sports, they're great, they're super valuable, but that is something that we are fitting into our schedule. Church isn't the thing that we're fitting into our schedule.
That's a really good word. And I love it when I see those families at the 8 a.m. service, which, by the way, is our traditional service. And it does skew a little older, and we don't have children's programming at that hour. So when I do see a family there together, I'm always like, what are you doing here? And sometimes they're like, we just wanted to come to the 8 a.m. service. And then there's other times like, hey, we've got, some things we've got to do, sports this afternoon. We just wanted to make sure that we did church today. And
I've seen them in their uniforms. So then
Yeah.
for sure.
So no, that's a good point. That's a good point, because we don't frown upon that at our church. Like if you're like, hey, I'm gonna make time for church, but I'm gonna have to come to church in my uniform. Praise God for that. Like I love that. That shows where your commitment is and where your heart is, and how, church and discipleship is the priority. Yes, we have other things in our life, but this is the priority. And that as a pastor, that makes me feel awesome when I see people like, I'm in my sports uniform at church because of time. Like, I'm gonna have to go straight from here to there. I'm like, but hey, at least you're getting it in. At least you're doing the right thing. So Kent, tell us a little more about your story, because, sports are not the enemy.
Sure.
Sports are not the enemy. A lack of commitment is a problem, and it's real hard. We talked about motive in the last episode. It's real hard to know somebody's motive sometimes unless you just ask. But, in your own life, you have told me before that it kind of became your idol.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? Because you don't want to communicate that sports are the enemy. You don't want to make it a church or sports dichotomy. The two are certainly possible to balance, but everything that we do shapes us to a degree. And I think there's a certain challenge that youth sports brings in that oftentimes, I think what I remember telling myself as a child was, I'm going to use youth sports as sort of like a mission field. I'm going to go and I'm going to enter into this whole other world, and I'm going to influence other people. But oftentimes we do it alone. And what ends up happening is we're more influenced by others than us influencing the people that we go to share Jesus with. And that's what happened with me. Oftentimes my dad was the coach. And so thankfully it kept me out of drifting into, too big of issues. But I really do think it's a challenge to balance the two, because oftentimes folks are going about it alone.
Yeah. And I think isolation does become a real problem, and people find community in the sports community and not enough. There's nothing wrong with that, but not enough in the church community too. And, that's hit or miss. I guess churches can be hit or miss too, but, a lot of times if you have a good group in your sports community, hey, that's awesome. But you may or may not find that. And really the place where God has designed us to grow in Christ is through the local church. So one thing we've done at West Bradenton, we have embraced sports. This is how we strike part of the balance. If we have somebody in our church that is coaching in one of the leagues around here, we will sponsor the team. And the idea is, hey, let's make this a mission field. You're going to be doing sports. We know that. Your kids are going to be involved. They should be involved. Goodness, kids need more exercise today. So more kids involved in sports programs, the better. But part of the way that we strike that balance is, hey, let's sponsor the team. Let's be involved. Let's make this a mission endeavor. And that has really helped us out to keep that perspective and to keep that viewpoint that the sport is not the idol. The ball field is the mission field. And I think that's one way that we have been able to strike that balance. Do all of our families do it perfectly? No. Does my family do it perfectly? No. But we are trying to work towards the right goal, and we're trying to do that together. So if you are doing travel sports and you feel convicted by this, hey, go talk to your pastor. Work through it. There's probably a way that you can balance this better. And if you're a pastor or church leader and you're a curmudgeon and all that you've done is just talk badly about travel sports, you're probably not in the right place either. So the key here is balance. And then there are also programs like Upward Sports that actually bring the mission field to your church. So, I mean, you can sponsor teams, you can go to the mission field, or you can bring the mission field to your church. And so there's a lot of ways for us to balance this idea of sports, which in and of itself is neutral. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just an activity. And what we know that we are all supposed to be doing, which is being discipled in the local church. So thank you, Brandi.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kent.
Yes, sir.
We have an episode next week as we continue this journey through our covenant. We're going to be talking about serving again. But the topic next week is how churches miss the needs of their community. What do churches really miss? We're going to have our illustrative panel back, and I know you want to be a part of that. So hey, give us a thumbs up, make a comment. This is a really controversial subject, so if you want to be really controversial in YouTube and put stuff in the comments, that's great. It helps our algorithm, so more people will be tuning in. Hey, if you want to check us out at westb.org, that's our church. Many of you are part of our church. This is part of our summer content series. Again, my name is Sam. I'm the lead pastor here. We'll see you in the next episode.